Hey everyone, how's it going? John Coleman, Norm Schriever here. T and Mortgage Podcast. We have a special edition because, John, we're up to number 20, believe it or not.
Oh my God, I still remember the day you kind of cajoled, persuade, bullied. I don't know what maybe that word into doing the first one.
Kidnapped might be a better.
And promise me these would just be interviews. There'd be no video attached. And look at us now. But obviously the reason for today is you and I are going to do very little talking. We've invited along John Foley from LifeSize Plans, who, for our clients who are looking at building their own, basically from the ground up, building their own home. John has a lot of wonderful information to share with us and potentially save our clients a lot of money. So we leave it to John.
So T and Mortgage Podcast, episode number 20. Thanks everyone so much for listening, tuning in, sharing, and our little humble podcast with John Coleman. Today we have an awesome guest, John Foley of LifeSize Plans, who does something really, really cool with his business. John and John Coleman, thanks so much for joining us, guys.
Thanks for having us.
John number one here today, and that's John Foley. So I'll keep in the background and let John share his wisdom with us,
Absolutely. Always happy to share. And thanks both of you for inviting me onto the podcast. We're a new business. We're established here in Dublin. We're just located off of Junction 9 on the M50. And what we do is we provide people that are thinking of building, extending, or renovating an opportunity to physically walk through their home before they build. We also work with architects and stakeholders in the commercial sector, but primarily we work with people that are in the residential sector. As part of the process, we take architectural plans. So these will typically be presented from an architect or an architectural designer at a scale of 1:50 or 1:100. And for our clients, we typically see and understand that they have a difficulty in visualizing what the space is going to be like in terms of the actual size of the space. They're able to recognize and identify what the bedroom is and where the toilet is and everything else. But what we do is we blow up the drawing to the actual size of the house. So we have an industrial unit here located in Colmore Road. It's a 6,000 square foot industrial unit. And what we do is we bring the plans into the showroom at a life-size scale, and to assist our clients to understand and to be able to visualize what their home is going to be like, we bring in walls, we bring in furniture, beds, couches, kitchen islands, tables, and all of those types of things to enable our clients to be able to understand, is the space big enough? Does the flow and function work in the house? And as I'm sure is as much as you see, John, with the mortgage applications coming through to you, we know how affordable and easy it is to get on the property ladder here in Ireland. So what we try and do is help people to ensure that they're spending their money wisely. They're not making mistakes and changes on site, and they're getting it right first time. Our contract starts and finishes with the client coming in. So we don't take on the design responsibility of the project. So we would see clients coming in with their architects, and we'd see some clients coming in on their own independently. So as part of that process, we will project their design on the ground. They will have the opportunity to walk through it and fully understand how it is and how it feels. And it's amazing when you see couples in the space, you will be able to determine very quickly, whether the design is meeting and delivering on expectations or not. Now, my background is from the industry. I studied architecture and I specialized in contract management and project management for the last 20 years. And there's a huge commonality that I see across all of the projects that I've been involved in. And one of those is during the delivery of any project, there's always change. 9 times out of 10, that change typically tends to be design driven or client driven.
I thought you were going to say driven by the wife who's walking through. Or
be careful, no, we don't want to cause any issues here. So.
No, so where I'm specifically referencing is on site. So all of these changes are possible, but if you're making the changes on site, the cost of rectifying something that's already part of the design is much more than doing it at the design stage. So for any client that's building their home, they're going to have, an agreed contract with their builder. They're going to have a bill of quantities. They're going to have a set of construction drawings. And that's going to be forming the basis of the contract between the homeowner and the builder. So any deviation from that in terms of design during the construction process is going to be what's classified as a variation. And that's going to be an additional cost onto the bottom line of the project. So what we enable people to do is to be able to make those fundamental changes at the very early stages, so as they're not making them at the back end, adding on to cost, time, and money on site. Now, because my background is from the industry, I know what's permissible, what's not permissible for every client that comes in. We recommend that they bring their architect with them. Some decide to come, others don't. It's entirely up to them. And as part of the process, we review every single room individually, and we've got wall projection technology as well. So we can project the elevations of the house so the clients can physically stand up in front of, say, their bedroom windows or their front door and really get a sense of the size and scale of each of the rooms. So
amazing.
So we capture all of the changes electronically during the process of a walkthrough. So at the end of the session, it's like a detailed set of minutes that our clients have that they can go back to their designer with for incorporating into the design. So it just gives our clients confidence and certainty that they know that they're going to be doing it right first time.
That's incredible. Yeah. What a fun service. And you mentioned, that it saves in the long run on cost and time when there's changes and, and the hassle of changing things, but it's also darn fun for these future homeowners, right? They're probably in a process where they have to wait for their home to be built, and they're spending a lot of money. So to actually see a mock-up of what it's going to look like is probably exciting for them.
Yeah, hugely. And it's always very fun as well for the clients, because any clients that we've seen they're so excited at the end of it. They're really just wanting to kick on and get going with the project, because there's so much administration that goes through the process of, developing your design, getting it through planning permission and bringing it through procurement to get your builder's appointment. At times, you can start to lose your focus of what you're actually trying to do. So what it really does is it just brings everyone back onto the fundamentals of what they're actually doing, and that is creating a home. It's crazy. Like for some clients that we see coming in here, we might see a house of maybe 340 square meters or 350 square meters. And when they're actually physically walking through the space, they realize we don't actually require this big of a house. So they've got the ability then to reduce the size of the footprint of the design. And we've seen clients leave with a house reduction of up to 40 square meters. And with the construction economics that we have here in Ireland, I know they're a little bit different to Medellin, but that's big money.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's a lot of subtle changes, and a lot of people want big changes, but hey, maybe we want to take down this wall and we don't want a separate dining room. We want a great room instead, or, these common things, a bigger bathroom, hey, that closet's small, but you mentioned something earlier that you encourage people to come in with their architect. I bet you probably are too nice to say this. I bet you cringe when they don't, because people sometimes maybe are like, oh, let's move the kitchen to the other side of the house. How much would that cost? And you're like, I can't really tell you that, right?
Yeah, well, it depends. For some architects that are, that are open to the idea and receptive, I would say for a lot of architects, they're in the learning phase about what we do, and what we're focused on is educating those design stakeholders in the country about our services and what we do. We understand they're all very busy, but for those that have come in and used the space with their clients, it's very quick that they start to realize, okay, this is going to actually save our practice time and money on our prelims, because instead of having 5 and 6 design meetings with their clients, they're able to short circuit the number of times that they meet with their client to get the design right. So as there's not an element of faith from the end user to just trust and believe this is what we're getting. It physically enables them to fully see the size of the space.
I would have thought, that potentially for an architect, your service is a great add-on in terms of differentiating themselves from other architects to be able to say, well, listen, folks, this is what we offer, this is what we do, but so we show you what it's going to look like in real life, and bring your services to their clients, rather than you finding the clients and asking them, will the architect come along and see you? Because again, well, I'm not telling your own business, but I would imagine that the architects who are kind of using your services, it will help get them win the business, I would have thought.
Absolutely. And that's one of the core functions that we focus on, both for the commercial market. So say companies that are doing design-led fit-outs, that they can use our facility as an event space or as a marketing space to bring their prospective clients in, demonstrate, look, this is the level of care and attention that we're going to bring you through on your journey of spending, X amount of money. If you go with us, we want to make sure that everything is going to be delivered right. And this is the level of care and attention that you're going to get if you go with us. For those architects that have been through with their clients, we see them coming back on a repeat basis. Yeah. And they're integrating what we do as part of their service. So that's a really refreshing piece of feedback from the industry, because you can see that there's a shift in terms of operating procedure. Now, for any business, obviously, the process in terms of the way you do things, it can be very rigid, and to get businesses to alter the sequence with how they operate.
If they can see you're saving time, people do adapt. That's one thing I've noticed. Certainly within my own business, that saving time.
Yeah, I see that as a huge win-win-win. Like John pointed out, for the architects, the builders, you guys, and the client. And I bet when people, like you mentioned, use you once or twice and truly understand how much time and energy and money you could save everyone, I bet you're indispensable. I bet they come back to you again and again.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to see, and like for an awful lot of clients that we see coming through, like we always recommend, like when we're talking with clients, especially when they're at the design development stage, if they haven't already, developed their power team around them, like say with their designer or their mortgage provider, we'd always kind of recommend that they start to get sort of cost certainty around how much it's going to cost. And like, what's a really beneficial exercise for people that are thinking of building, renovating or extending, is engaging with like a project QS or a quantity surveyor, just to get a pre-planning cost estimate, because with the costs that are involved with the construction process in Ireland, it is quite extensive.
I'll go one step further, and there's no self-promotion in this. I always would tell people that they, regardless of whether they use my service or not, they know how much the banks are going to lend them, because that then is the starting point as to what they can and cannot design for their for their self-build project. So I think that's almost a starting point.
Hugely. And it's critically important as well, once you start from that point, that you ensure that the design has been developed to meet the requirements of that budget, because it's all well and good having the Rolls-Royce design of what you may want, but when reality hits in terms of what you can physically afford, there's certain exercises that has to happen to bring the project back in on cost.
But John, a couple of questions I'm thinking about when you're talking about this, and I know you've been in business a year or more, but you have a ton of experience in this. So what's the biggest project you've worked on? Residential, let's say, for homeowners, the biggest, build out in your space. What's the smallest? And what's the biggest change that you've seen someone propose after going through your service?
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest project that we've worked on, in private residential, not commercial now, because some of the projects we've seen in commercial are up to 50,000 square foot. The biggest private residence that we've seen was 12,500 square foot. So that was a huge property. It was over 3 stores.
What was the build? I'm just being nosy now. What was the build cost for that approximately?
They hadn't gone to tender at the time, but I didn't get the impression that cost was. I think the triangle of time, cost, and quality was well balanced on that one. So it was, and the smallest property that we've seen was it was like a 60 square meter. It was like a small townhouse that was getting reconfigured, and it's very interesting because sometimes the smaller the property, the more creative clients have to be to try and get everything that they require into the space. So it's sort of 60 square meters, you know, so there's a big variance. In terms of change, the biggest change, like on average, like we would see kind of the average property in Ireland coming through for walking through their home would be about 2,000 square foot. See some kind of between 2,000 and 3,000 square foot, but for that kind of category, we see on average between 12 and 14 fundamental changes per walkthrough, and that would include always we would see huge amount of change in the master bedroom, walk-in wardrobe ensuite. That layout always gets reconfigured in some shape or form. We would always see open plan living in terms of kitchen, living room, dining room getting reconfigured, external walls getting pulled out to create that additional flow and space for clients, and bathrooms as well. So the layout of the bathrooms would always get reconfigured. And it's an interesting one because for a lot of clients that we speak to have this perception, oh no, sure, when we're on site, we can determine where the toilet and the bath and the sink is going to go without kind of fully having an appreciation of the build process, that the services are going to be going into the ground and predetermined locations before you actually cast the raft or the slab. And that, you know, if you're wanting to reconfigure the layout of your bathroom, whilst yes, you can do it, you're going to be breaking out slabs to relocate services, to reposition the layout of your bath, your toilet, and your sink, or your shower. So it's always very interesting to see. And we capture all of these changes throughout the walkthrough, and it just gives clients the flexibility to be able to trial the layouts out. But yeah, I would say that's probably the biggest change we've seen. Other changes then is, as I've said, for the like of huge houses, when they come in, and the client's actually realizing that they don't actually require the full extent or size of that house. And like, you know, the figures for new build that are getting quoted here are about 2,500 to 3,000 cost per square meter. And that's excluding, you know, professional fees, site purchase costs. I know that development levies are waived at the minute, but when they kick back in, it's not including inflation as well. So if you take,
there's always an overrun then as well. With
always an overrun. But if you take the like a 2,500 to 3,000 euro a square meter, and for a client that's after being in and reducing the footprint of their house from say 350 down to 310, that's 40 square meters. And, you know, the cost impact of that, you know, economically is huge. Whereas if they hadn't had the provision to be able to physically walk through their footprint, and the next time that they're going to be able to experience it in life size is going to be on the site, at that stage it's too late. The foundations are in, the design is too far progressed to try and reverse it back to make it smaller. So yeah, it's fantastic to see, because the cost benefit that clients experience, it just enables them to reallocate funds for their project fit out.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so speaking of the clients and the ideal client for you, who should be finding you? When in the process should they be finding you? And maybe if you want to give a plug for, you know, what your website, your social media, phone number, all that stuff, so people could get in touch.
So the optimum time, or like, you have to kind of look at the project stages. So for any client that's looking at taking on a project, they're going to go from, you know, the initial early inception stage of brief development with their architect and engaging with their architect. We see clients come in and engage with us as early as pre-submission of their planning drawings. So after they engage with their architect, they sit down, they're after working through their project brief about the functional requirements. So they've got initial draft layouts. They might be after doing the initial review of the layouts. So what they do is they come in and walk through their plans. But then we also see clients up to and as early as right before commencing construction on site. So there's quite a vast time period between starting to construct on site and after initial engagement with their architect. But the most critical thing is that it's before construction starts on site, specifically for those that are going the self-build route. We have seen quite an uptake in interior designers using the space, and for an awful lot of the interior designers, they're working with the layouts of the rooms as they are currently. So like on our wall projection, we can do all of the internal room elevations. So if, say, the interior designer is looking at displaying, look, this is what your fireplace is going to be like with all of the impressions of dado rails and you know, feature lighting and all. We can have all of that projected, so as it's really immersive for the end user to be able to physically walk through this space and experience it. But yeah, so that's
cool.
kind of like the high level timeline of when we see the clients coming in.
For me, you're kind of an epitome of where the modern world is basically going, just in terms of technology, just bringing us to a new place. And it looks like you seem to be groundbreaking in what you offer. That's, again, I'd never actually known about what you offer until.
Like, I put it this way, like, I've been involved in the industry for over 20 years. And in the amount of time that I've been involved in it, like probably for the last 5 years of my career, I've been really focused on contract management and design management. And what happens in an awful lot of contracts is there'll be changes made through the process, and that will add additional monies onto the project cost. And 9 times out of 10, the promoter of the project or the end user typically ends up paying. So that's the client. So for us, like, we've got so much confidence in the value that we're presenting to the homeowner and to the self-build market in Ireland that we've introduced a money-back guarantee that in the first 15 minutes after walking through your home, if you don't feel that you're getting the value and the benefit from experiencing what it is we provide, we'll provide our clients with a full money-back guarantee, shake hands, and finish off the session. So we've introduced that now as part of our 1-year anniversary. So we're open a year this month. So yeah, it's been fun to sort of see the benefits that the clients get and to be able to provide that confidence and reassurance for people.
That's awesome. That's great. And congrats. Happy 1-year anniversary soon, huh? Are we going to be invited to the anniversary party? That's my next question.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how big the party's going to be. There's only a handful of us here working in the business, but like that's another aspect of it. So with the business, the way we operate, it's we only ever work with one client at a time. So even though our premises is 6,000 square foot, when you come in to walk through your house, you're the only one here. There's nobody else here. We provide a really customer-centric service. There's 2 of us involved in every walkthrough. As I said to you before, the business is myself and my wife, so we run the business together. And we work with each of our clients throughout the process in terms of managing, you know, the technology and the software that's involved, in addition to physically dressing out all of the houses with the props, straight through to literally bringing them through the journey of their home and capturing all of the comments and observations that they have. So it's definitely interesting to see couples in the space, and you know, we've seen a few arguments in our time as well, but whatever happens in life size stays in life size.
Yeah, that's a great motto right there. And how should people get in touch with you if you want to drop your email, your website, anything like that?
Yeah, cool. So I suppose one of the easiest ways for people to check us out is to check us out on our Instagram page. So the Instagram page is LifeSize Plans Leinster. Our website is lifesizeplans.leinster.com. Our email is leinster@lifesizeplans.com. And you can contact us if you're an architect that happens to be listening to the show. What we do with all architects and stakeholders from the commercial sector is we invite, you know, businesses to come in. What we'll do is provide a demonstration of the technology, show you the value that we can bring to your business, and enable you to sort of fully determine where it is we fit in to how you operate.
Well, yeah, everyone, thanks a million for listening. John, thank you so much for sharing all that information with us. Truly amazing. Looking forward to sharing it with all our listeners and any future clients who come our way, because we were looking to build our own home. I think what you have to offer is, I love unique things, and this is incredibly unique and groundbreaking. So congratulations again, and thank you all for listening.
Yeah, and thank you, John. Thank you, John. And thank you, everyone, for listening and tuning in to the T and Mortgage Podcast, episode number 20. And we'll see you next month.